All right. All right, everyone. I'm down here in Tallahassee. Just did the
Dirty pecan.
yeah, Dirty Pecan yesterday, and I rode some of it with Rick Ashton. And I don't know if you guys know him, but he has attempted the Tour Divide 3 times, finished it twice, um, and he's kind of everybody around here in Tallahassee knows who he is. He's done Ironmans and all kinds of stuff. Right? You're getting ready.
Different adventure races.
Yep. And you're getting ready to do the swim around.
Swim around Key West, 12-mile swim.
Yeah, 12-mile swim. And he's at the young age of 71. So you're never too old to do this stuff. And I figured I'd sit down with him and maybe ask a few questions so you guys can get to know him a little bit and know who he is, because you see him on the internet and, you know, local mountain bike stuff, bike packing stuff, Tour Divide stuff. And he was the face of the Dirty Pecan this year. He went out and did a bunch of rides and showed a lot of the route and how beautiful it was. So I've asked some of you guys, you know, everybody sent some questions in, so I'm going to ask him a few of those questions, and then we'll just go from there and talk about other stuff from there. Let me see here. I got them all written down because I can't remember them.
When we get old like this, it's hard to remember stuff.
Yes, yes. Okay, one of the questions was, what's your sleep system? What do you use?
I got a Hard Mountain 35 Lumina, and for out west, 35 for me is plenty. I had attempted to get a REI. I forgot what the model was, a Flash or something. And it was rated 29, but when I tried to use it, it didn't give me enough room to get up in a fetal position to stay warmer. So I took my Hard Mountain again on this second or third attempt to do the Tour Divide, and it worked fine for me. The temps would be down in the 20s, low 20s, and I would be comfortable. I would wear long tights, socks, and a Capilene long sleeve when I sleep. And I would keep that separate from my riding kit.
Okay, cool. What type of saddle? Do you have a preferred saddle, or you just...
I do have a preferred saddle. It's SDG Bel Air. It's got enough cushioning for me that I can go long distances without having saddle sores. I also use a Thudbuster seat post. It's made by Cane Creek. I ride a hardtail, so that extra support turns it kind of into a full suspension, but you don't have all the weight of a full suspension. So,
and you don't lose any of the climbing power with that either.
Right.
Yeah. What part of your cycling kit, when you do the Tour Divide, between your bags or whatever, that you cannot do without, that you keep with you every time you do a long bike packing ride? Or...
Well, I use Revelate bags, the gas tank and jerry can, and the frame bag, and also the large seat bag that they make. The seat bag is the one that you use the most. The frame bag, you put items in there like any tools that you need, lube and stuff. There's in the bottom section, there's a place for a bladder, and I use an extension tube to come all the way up where I can drink while I'm sitting up on the bike. I don't have to bend over and stuff. But the Revelate bags, they aren't waterproof. They do make a bag, a seat bag that has a full dry bag that is totally waterproof, that acts just like your normal seat bag, which is not waterproof. But I've gone with the regular large Revelate seat bag, but I also have some lightweight dry bags that I put different clothes into these smaller dry bags that fit inside the Revelate bag.
Okay, all right. What is your best story you have from all your rides? The one major...
The first time I finished in 2013, it was such a spiritual ride event for me. Uh, when I finished, I wasn't expecting the emotional outcome that came from me. I was totally bawling at the finish in Antelope Wells. I was happy it was over, but I was sad it was over. I wanted to continue to be out there in that element, but I knew that I needed to get back to life. But to me, at the end of 30 days, it took me 30 days, that became my life. And I was thanking God. Uh, like I say, it's spiritual, so you're talking to God every day out there, just thanking Him for the vistas and the animals and everything. So I think that's the best experience that I've had each time I've done it.
Nice. Now you said this last year when you did it, you were just happy to be done with it.
Yes, when I finished, uh, I had planned to do it in 28 days, but each year they make tweaks to certain sections of the Tour Divide. And these sections, typically, Matt wants to make them more difficult, to make it more interesting for the riders. So there were a couple of sections there that the reroute this year, because there was a bridge out on the Flathead River section that ended up being, I enjoyed it tremendously, but it was a very difficult section, so the mileage for that day was way down, so you couldn't put a lot of mileage in. Another section that I didn't do in 2013 because we had a fire reroute around that section, it was the Beaverhead Workstation section to Silver City. Oh my God, that's the hard section. Once you get to New Mexico, it's a lot harder than the other states. There's a longer distance between resupply. You have the water supply is difficult. There's not much water, so you got to carry a lot of water in that section. And it's hot down there. So for me, New Mexico's the hardest state, both with the temperature, the water, and the climbing that you have to do before you get to Silver City.
Okay. Now, speaking of, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the low points. When you hit a low point on your rides, how do you get yourself through that low point to get back on the bike and keep going to finish a ride?
I think this second and third time, the first time was in 2009. There were 47 starters and 17 finishers. I happened to be a couple of days in. I got caught in between the fast people and the slow people. So I was by myself the whole time. And the weather conditions that year were terrible. It was raining every day, every night. So you ride wet, you go to bed wet, you wake up wet, you're riding wet again. And that went on, and it just wore me down mentally. Most days were down days for me. The second time I did I pulled out the first year in Jackson, Wyoming. The second year I did most of that up until Jackson by memory. In 2013 they started using the GPSs. The first year in 2009 they basically didn't have GPSs. It was mostly everybody was using maps and cues. So like this past one that I did last year in 2017, I had a couple of down days. One was coming out of Salida to Sargent's. You go up over Marshall Pass, and the wind was howling that day. You'd climb in a low gear, And once you get to Marshall Pass, it's downhill all the way to Sargent's. So I thought, okay, I'm good to go. Well, the wind was blowing so hard, I had to use the same gearing to go down to Sargent as I was to go up to Marshall Pass. And then from Sargent's, there's a paved section that's basically downhill for about 20 miles, and you can really haul ass there. But this year, the wind was blowing in gusts where it would totally stop me on the pavement, where you could not pedal. It was blowing so hard. So that cut off about 40 miles of my planned mileage for that day. So I was kind of bummed that day. And I got over it the next day, started riding, and as you're moving forward, anytime you can move forward at a reasonable pace, that's a good day. So I had all the other days were fine until I got to the CDT trail, and that's the Continental Divide Trail that they put you on after the Beaverhead Workstation. And it's basically 8 miles of pushing a bike on a small hiking trail. And I'm taking a video and I'm cussing in the video saying this is supposed to be a bike race, not a hiking race. So that was another down day because I was trying to make it to Silver City, so I got caught up on this trail late at night, and it was dark and you can't see where you're putting your feet, and you got boulders and you're tripping over them. So I just laid down and just went to sleep in my racing kit. I didn't even bother taking anything out to camp or anything. 4 o'clock in the morning I had to wake up and get my sleeping bag out because I got cold. But those were my 2 down days.
So you don't do anything, I mean, you just figure that you go to sleep and wake up and look at what you got going on and decide if you're going to keep going. You don't do anything
right.
like really special.
You run across people that say, I'm done, I'm finished. And you try to talk them up, but the main thing is to tell them is take a day, relax, and you're going to feel different after you take some time. And most of the time that works. They'll realize that, okay, I got this, and a lot of them will keep going. But everybody's going to have certain days out there. I mean, in 2013, at the top of Richmond Peak, I ripped my derailleur off, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, snowing. I'm figuring I can't work on it up here in the dark, and my hands are shaking. So the derailleur is just totally messed up, and I just went ahead and zip tied everything to the back of my seat and freewheeled it down to Sealy Lake to work on my bike the next morning, and I was fine from there.
Cool. Now, if you had something you want to tell a brand new person that was just starting out bikepacking and going out and like on their first ride or just starting out, what advice would you give a beginner bikepacker?
I would say that, for one thing, talk to people to find out what kind of gear you need, what they use. Everybody's got their own specifics, so you'll have to work it out yourself on what you like best, and you got to start out slow. I start out with not even doing an overnight trip to begin with. Just get out there with your the gear that you're going to want to use and just ride a little bit for one day or for a few days, and then do a one-night overnight trip. And you're not racing in bike packing. This is just the adventure of being out there by yourself, being self-sufficient. So you're just going at your own pace. You don't want to push too hard, because once you get into these longer days, you got to conserve energy for the following days. So you get people that get into bikepacking, they're used to doing these century rides where they're going to push the whole way. And you can't do that. You got to do a different pace and just stay within yourself so you can wake up the next day and ride again. And in camp, wake up the next day and ride again. And like, it's just pacing yourself.
Okay. So yesterday, Rick did, like I said, did the Dirty Pecan, and he did the 150 and finished it. And I think he came in like 9th or something like that. But if you get a chance and you're out there, if you're around Tallahassee, or if you do some of these bike packing rides, look around and see if you can find Rick when he's out there, and stop and talk to him, because he's a very gracious host. He will help you with everything. He's helped a ton of riders around here. I met him like 4 or 5 years ago on a TOS RV, and he's always got someone new with him that he's showing them the ins and outs of riding, and helping them train for different rides. So if you get a chance, just give him a holler. He's on Facebook. Great guy. One of the best guys I've met out here bike packing, and we actually spent the weekend with him, and they spoiled us down here. So if you get a chance, say hi to him, and he'll be happy to answer any questions you got. And I appreciate y'all watching my site here, and I'm gonna have some more people out here. And if you have any more questions, like I said, he's on Facebook. You
Just
don't mind
personal message me.
Yeah.
Would be the best thing.
Yep.
If you try to add me as a friend, if I don't know you, I'm going to ignore you. I'm sorry, but yeah, just PM me, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so that's Rick Ashton on Facebook. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you, and I'll have another one on here hopefully next couple weeks. Thank you.